Hello, welcome to part 3.1 with Learn with PMW Solid. We are still looking at class method. In this section, we are going to demonstrate another powerful way of working with the class method, class attribute, and instance method. By doing so, we're going to create a bank account class. This bank account, it will be able to make deposit, withdraw, and keeping the balance, right? Keeping the balance. At the end of this video, we must be able to demonstrate instance method. We must also able to demonstrate the work of class method, of which we saw in the previous video with an example of a product, and class attribute. All right. We also want to add other thing, that the function of this bank account class, it will also be able to track how many account has been created. So bank account number, bank account created. Yeah. So if bank accounts created, it will come from a class attribute. Then things like withdraw, it will come to instance method. Deposit will come from instance method. So how is class method going to be pressed? So the class method is going to fulfill knowing the state of the balance. If it is how much, so there shall be a method here in order to get the variable from class method. So this method will be demonstrated by a class method. So this method may be called display bank details. Yeah, this is what we are going to deliver. Okay, shall we start? Okay, so I've already created this file called bank account. So the first very thing that I have to do is to create a bank account object, a bank account class. From there, we have to declare a class attribute, which will have the name of the bank. And this class attribute shall be shared by all instances. So what's the name of this bank? We have got Zanaco Bank, Bakra, no, not Bakra, Zanaco Bank, Indo, Zambia. So there are a lot of banks that we usually have that surrounds the states of this country. So global bank. No, we said Zanaco. Let's stick to what we agree. Zanaco. Okay. You know what Zanaco is? Okay. We also come to total accounts created. Please, these things I'm declaring are called class attributes that can be accessed and globally shared within the instances of the class. Account created, this is just a variable. Account created, it will be initialized by 0. Then from there, we shall create a constructor, which will basically be receiving what? Account number of that particular person. You know, for you to create account, you shall be given that account number, something like that. Account number. Okay. We shall also come up with the order name. Order name. What's the name of the account? So initial balance. When you're getting a balance, most of these people requires that you deposit something. You just don't have to get the account, then just let it the way it is. So we shall give it an initial balance, something like that, right? Then from there, then we create instance variables or instance attribute. So you shall stick to this kind of terminology because it shall surely attack you in the future. Because the question comes this way: create a bank account class that is doing this and this. So if you are not knowing the terminologies, you shall lack to what you should deliver. Okay, then initial balance shall be equal to initial balance. From there, we settle how many instances we shall be creating when we call. So for everyone who calls the constructor, we shall be incrementing by 1, and that is simple to do, right? So increment the class attribute. In short, incrementing the balance. And we said when using this class attribute, the best way to utilize it is to call its class it is working on. This is bank account, right? Dot total accounts created. That means I'm trying to assign a variable to this. That's more like a standard of using class attribute. So it is equal to, we shall, this is usually called a sentinel value or variable, which actually increments by 1. So every time we call the constructor outside this bank account, it will be increasing by 1 every time we call it. This simple as saying as x is equal to x plus 1, right? So bank account, this is a bank, this is a total account created plus total account created, which is 0 for now, plus 1. So when the constructor is called, it's going to assign it to 1. The second time, since it will be 1, the second time it is created, so it will be 1 plus 1, then it will be 2. So that means every time to be the constructor is called, it will increment itself by what? By 1. From there, we create a class method that will be calling the bank name. And we said whenever you're creating a class method, you have to annotate it. Okay. Then we shall say define display bank name. Then CLC shall be used to reference to itself. Then the whole thing this one should be doing just to print the name of that bank. Okay, we shall decorate it probably this way. Okay. So we shall use this same variable to get the total accounts created. Right? Yeah, I hope you understand this part. Total accounts created. We said the bank name or the total accounts created. We can do both. So we can just copy this one and so that it also display the bank name. So the bank name, which is this one. So here we're going to change how we're going to access it. So it will be bank name. Shall we say bank name and next line total account created or bank name. Okay. From here, we shall move to a method that we said that we shall be depositing money in this bank. This is an instance method as we prescribed it. Then shall receive amount and difference it to. So when we receive this amount, we have to process it, then we add it to the balance, this initial balance. We will be adding this amount received to the initial balance, right? So we can't be adding anything. So we have to do some sort of validation. What if the amount is -1? Users, they can put anything. So we have to validate this variable anytime we receive it. So if amount less than 0, what shall we do? We refuse. We shall refuse. We shall refuse by saying deposit money should be greater than maybe even 5 kwacha, because I've never seen currently any mobile money receiving 2 kwacha for deposit. Else, shall we process that money, right? Okay. After we can process it and even print out the message. Print, okay, you deposited this amount. Deposited this amount. You deposited this amount. Maybe that's all. After doing so, okay, after printing that message, we just say self dot initial balance is equal to balance is equal to amount. You know how we handle this. So this is more like the same way incrementers use or sentinel values are used. They help to keep total amounts of money. Because if we are just to say initial balance is equal to amount, that means the initial balance was 0, right? The initial balance was 0, or the initial balance is 5 kwacha. Again, if you call this method, you deposit, for example, you deposit 100 kwacha. Instead of adding 100 kwacha to 5 kwacha, it will reassign. So we don't want to be assigning, we just want it to add to the current balance. So this is how we can do it. Or in another way, we can just say self dot initial balance plus amount. It's just one and the same. Now we are so much on deserving the CPU time to process this kind of variables and code formatting. So this is a simple way of doing it, by the way. Okay. From there, we also have to get an account of withdraw. So what happens when withdrawing amount? So it has to subtract from what? From the balance. Okay. Self. So this self will be receiving, also it will be receiving amount that must be withdrawn. So for us to receive the amount that must be withdrawn, we have to determine one, if the amount is less than 0, we have to put out the message withdraw amount must be positive. Then the amount must be always less than the amount, always less than the initial balance. So we first have to determine the amount if it is less than 0 in the first place. less or equal to 0. If it's that, so then we print the amount should be what, or the withdraw amount must be positive. As simple as that. From there, we also determine if amount is greater than the withdraw. So if the amount is greater than withdraw, then we can't. So if the amount is greater to initial balance that is being stored in there, then I'm telling you that we can't withdraw. So withdraw failed insufficient balance. That's what our network provider responds to us. So we are just comparing to how the normal things are done outside there. Withdraw amount, so I want to format this. Withdraw amount, withdraw failed, or just a simple message, by the way. Withdraw failed. Okay, something that we don't want to take time in this session. Then if else, the last condition, we have got these options. Then the last option, that means the amount is not less than 0 and it's not greater than the initial balance. Then we have to do to subtract. Yeah. So therefore, initial balance minus what? Minus the amount. That means we have successfully done what? Withdrawn. So now there is only one last method that we have to demonstrate by creating an instance method to display the current balance, right? Yeah, instance method to display the current balance. Okay, so an instance method, we are now familiar with this up to this time. So now we just want to retain the state of that what? The state of that balance, which is the initial balance, this one. Regardless of how many times you're going to withdraw, but you have to retain that variable. So this is just more like a get method, or yeah, just a get method. So I'm going to make some sort of printing where we'll say balance inquiry account. So also want to retain the account number, which is self dot account number. This account number variable that we have initiated from the constructor, because the user always has to pass the account number. So we are just more like displaying the information when someone requests for the balance. Sure. Order name. So for order name was this one. The order name, we accepted the argument for the order name A. So we want to retain this variable. This variable. So self dot order name. Right. Self dot order name. After doing that, I think for me, we are done, because we have demonstrated instance method, class method, and class attribute, these two, and we have operated to how they can be used and defined. So let's now demonstrate the use of this class. Sure. So we are going to create a main method, which will basically do what how it's going to access the main method. So this is just an argument accessing the class attribute before creating instances. So we can just say, before we create an instance is basically uh, an object that is being created. That is an instance. I just want you to not really to be used to these terminologies, but it's important in order for clarification in terms of there will be different ways that they will be rephrasing these questions. So welcome to we want to access the class the class attribute, which is called bank name. So I want to access it directly before even creating an object. So you just have to refer to the bank account class, which is this, because we have talked about how we should be accessing the class attribute. We always have to use the class name, then we call that attribute. So what's the name of that attribute? It's called bank name. So we are saying a dot bank name. All right. From there, when we learn this program, when we learn this method, we are going to see this message: welcome to Zanaco Bank. Also, that should be the result. Secondly, we are going to create two instances. So creating, and you are going to find this class to be attached to this video at the end, and you, while testing your programs, are also going to see it. All right. Creating two separate bank account bank account instance bank account instances. So in other words, objects. An object is an instance of a class. That's what we defined in the very first video of this course. So account one is equal to bank account, and this bank account is a construct is a class that requires to call the initial or to call the constructor directly. So we have to call this constructor the initiate, and the initiate constructor requires some arguments to be passed. Where is it? It is this one, right? It requires account number, we pass it, order name, the owner of the account, and the initial balance. Therefore, we are saying that account number, right? Yeah, saying that account number. So account number usually start with the shall never start with the zero. Yeah, something like that. Also, we have to pass order name. Who are you? Do you have money in your account? People are usually broke nowadays. So order name, which is uh, P. This name shall never exist in the real world banks. So PMW Sware, then and we pass the what? The initial balance. So this man is usually with about that amount as 1,000. So shall we do this? The same thing. We create another instance pointing an object creation in the memory of a computer. Account 2 is equal to bank account. So also this is a second person having different account. Sometimes they must be the sequence of creation this account. The first numbers are usually the same, some sort of that. So Jackson. Jackson, what's the surname? Jackson Kabwe. All right. From here, this man is usually a rich person. He shall have, not really, it is a broke guy as well. So he shall have a 2,000 in their account. So we want to perform some transaction in this account based on our methods. You know, the kind methods can make us to perform certain transactions. So we have deposit, we have withdraw, and we have display what? Display balance. Also, we have another method called display bank name. Yeah, like that. So we shall comment as performing transaction. So we'll start with the account number one is equal to what do you want to do? First, this man wants to display their balance. So to display their balance, we just have to access this instance variable with the method assigned to it, which is display balance dot display balance, and we have to see this balance. We can only access class method through their instance variables. That's what we are doing here, please. So display balance, it is this one. Therefore, it has to display the balance of 1000. That's an in a normal situation with this kind of message. We shall do the same thing to the second what? To the second account balance. Okay. Or we continue with the same account doing different transaction. So that means we can also deposit. Deposit, how much are we supposed to deposit? We created the method that is receiving deposit amount A. So we are about to deposit a 500. Mind you, these are simple calculation. For now, we expect when we create this method and put it here, we expect the balance to be 1500, but for now it is 1000, right? Sure. Another method that we're going to do is to withdraw certain amount. Okay, we created this method that will be receiving amount of withdraw. So this man, he wants to withdraw 100. So that 100, the balance should now be left with 1400, right? Yeah. So this man is facing some issues. So he's about to perform another transaction of 500. Yeah, of 500. And we believe that when you do amount of 500, the last balance to be seen, it will be 900. I hope you can calculate that. Okay. Last thing, we can come to the second variable, or to the second instance variable. This one perform another transaction. So we have created two objects from one class, or from one blueprint, as we defined it. I mean, we're about to display this balance. Okay. Then count 2 dot deposit. This man is also going to deposit some sort of amount. Sure. How much is he trying to deposit from there? 2000. So they want to increase that amount by 100 kwacha. Okay, let's say by 200, so that it becomes 2200. From there, they'll do another transaction to withdraw. They are going to withdraw 1000, and I believe they're going to be left with what? With 1200. From there, we want to demonstrate the what? Their bank account state. We created this method, a bank account state. This one, display bank balance. Okay. So we have already used the display bank account balance. So I'm trying to complicate things here, but actually we have used one thing. But I hope we have left with something. Yeah, bank account state wants to display this variable. How many bank accounts have we created so far? So that's what we want to demonstrate from this point. So we are going to use the class name bank account dot display state, which is what's the name of the variable, total accounts created, which was initially increasing. So far it has to display two accounts, that were created, because we have seen that we have created two accounts, or in short, two objects. Display bank state. All right, which is display bank name. This is actually turning the name of the bank, which is this one, bank name. Yes, it's just going to display some sort of bank name and total account which were which were created. That's all about this video. And we believe that we really want to see the output of the things that we have done so far. And this is just a simple bank account class. In the upcoming videos, we'll be looking at details like encapsulation and how to hide data from within, right? Yeah. So, by the way, let's just illustrate the output of what we have done. If there are no errors, we will be so happy. But being in this situation, we expect some sort of debugging issues. But for now, if everything is okay, we'll see the good output. Okay, so that's what we want to do here. So now let's compile this program and we see the result. So the name of the file is bank account.py. And before even learn this program, we have to see if everything is correct. So we are calling, uh, we're trying to access different method in second object and also this part. Yeah, let's check out our syntax from the bank account class. So here's the syntax to withdraw, and we know that else when we're making a statement, we have to end with that full colon. Then we provide the second statement so that and we indent so that the program can read. Sure. So shall we learn this program? Okay, great. So we basically have the result of what we needed. So let's be going line by line and be checking what was performed. So we created a main method of which initially we had to print the attribute before creating an instance. That is, we access the bank class, we accessing the class attribute bank name. That's how we are able to see welcome to Zanaco. Second part, we are trying to get two separate bank account instances. That means two objects, account one and account two, and we pass the values in their constructors. From there, we had to see to perform certain transaction to each object. So the first object was to display the balance, and balance inquiry account for order name PMW, you deposited 500. That is what has been reflected. So balance inquiry account, this one for order PMW. Let's see which is this method. Bank display balance. My bad. So in here we are displaying account number and we try to display the order name. But the purpose of this method was to display the balance of this person. So we have to include this method, right? Yes. So we have to conclude and your balance. So balance is self dot initial balance. Yeah, that was the purpose of this method, not to display this method. Here we are just decorating the output, by the way, right? So let's recompile this and learn the program. Okay, great. Yeah, so we continue from where we ended. So display balance, now it has displayed, that is 100. The one we deposited there, sure. The second part was deposit 500, and the message came, you deposited 500, because it was what was defined or implemented in this method. After we deposit, we have to receive some sort of what? Some sort of a message. This is what has been deflected. You deposited that amount, and it has to add to the initial balance. From there, we also demonstrated the withdraw. We had to withdraw multiple times. Withdraw 1000 and we had to withdraw 500. And nothing has happened. But to the background, we know what the method of withdrawing is doing. So maybe we have to repeat this function to know the state of the last balance. So display balance at the end. So I believe from this line, when we learn the code, we have to see the last balance. Shall we do that? Yeah. Okay. So now the last balance of this method, it is this line. For order name, your balance is 900 as we were calculating when we are putting these numbers. Okay, then we were doing the right thing. Then the second object was also trying to demonstrate these balances. It is this information which is coming, order name, Kawe, Jackson, some sort of thing like that, which is this part actually. Order name, Kawe, yeah. And you deposited 200 after we had to deposit, and we had to withdraw. No message which should come because it's what we defined in a withdraw method. We said that when we are just withdrawing, we didn't implement any method or any printout message. The only printout message is when we receive an error, withdraw failed, withdraw must be positive. And should we demonstrate that part where we should do receive the withdraw failed or withdraw must be positive? Okay, let's try that. So let's do a deliberate action where we should put a negative balance and we should expect this message. The withdraw must be positive. So we're going to do this at the end of the line, not necessarily the end of the line. Account to dot withdraw. So we're trying to withdraw a negative number E. Yeah. So we must expect the error to come or the message to come at this point. Shall we learn this program and we see what the outcome? Yeah, and we have seen it. Withdraw must be positive. That is, every method that we created are working. The only last part that we are able to demonstrate here is this method, an instance method, which is just displaying the bank name. Where did we implement this? It is this part. Actually, it's not an instance method. It is a class attribute method which is accessing the class attribute variables. They are outside there. So we are just printing out how many times we have created the account and the bank name. So shall we say that it is this part, this message. When we access it, when we say bank account dot display bank name, the message came out this way. This way. So we have created the total accounts created 2, and you can verify from that we have created 2 accounts, account 1 and account 2, account 1 and account 2. Yeah. Also the bank name, which is an apple. All right. In summary, we have demonstrated the use of instance method and class method with class attribute. We have demonstrated this and this and that. Also, we have made some method display, withdraw, and balance as we promised to deliver. All right. Thank you for watching this video. In the next upcoming video, we'll be looking at what? We'll be looking at static method. Upcoming video, we'll be looking at this part, static method, so that we keep on moving to other sessions. Otherwise, thank you for watching. See you.